Since her very first appearance in the trailer, Lady Dimitrescu became the real protagonist of Resident Evil Village, at least when it comes to internet popularity. Her huge personality immediately made her become one of the most popular villains of the Resident Evil franchise. Are you ready to know more about her? Of course, this video contains spoilers, so if you didn't play Resident Evil Village yet, come back here after finishing your playthrough. We know she's tall, very tall, but how tall she is? According to the information we got from Tomonori Takano, art director on Resident Evil Village, she is 290 centimeters tall, 9 feet 6 inches, including hats and high heels. This means, even without shoes, she is taller than the tallest man ever recorded by the Guinness World Record. The giant of Illinois, Robert Wadlow, was in fact only 8 feet 11 inches. For comparison, we know Ethan is 180 centimeters tall, 5 feet 11 inches, so he's not a short man, but you can clearly see how shorter he is compared to our Lady Dimitrescu. Here's a less known curiosity about Lady Dimitrescu's height. She became a giant later in the development of the game. Takano said her design dates back to the very beginning of the project, but they were reusing the character model of Mia from Resident Evil 7, just adding a dress and a hat. But then they didn't feel like it was enough to give her a ghost-like appearance and make her feel scary enough. That's when the art director decided to increase the size of the character model, and he drew a concept art where the villain stoops down to get through a doorway, beginning the development of the character we now know. While we all know Lady Dimitrescu looks much younger than she is, do we know her actual age? We do know she was 44 when Miranda experimented on her, causing her mutation, and we know from a maid's diary file that in 1958 we're already ruling over the castle. This means our favorite lady was born in 1914 at the latest. We also know that Miranda lost her daughter in 1919 and started wandering around the village hoping to find her death in some remote cave, when she discovered the Megamycete. So 1919 is the first possible year in which Lady Dimitrescu could have been 44 years old. We are therefore sure she was born in a range between 1875 and 1914. This means that on the date of death, February 9, 2021, she was between 107 and 146 years old. I tend to think she was more towards 146, considering in the castle we can see a painting of the young Alcina dressed in a purely Victorian fashion, so before the end of 1890s. The art director Takano gave us another precious information about Lady Dimitrescu. Maybe not something we would have asked. Her feet are 44 centimeters long, 70.3 inches, which is a bit more than the Guinness World Record of the world's largest feet. Takano designed her shoes based on a real pair of high heels, which is canon resized to match the impressive size of our tall lady. While we got to appreciate her lovely 3 daughters, the early concept was very different from the final result. Lady Dimitrescu was supposed to be the mother guru of a much bigger cult with hundreds of witches living inside her castle. That eventually turned out to be too hard to implement, but they decided to keep part of the concept, and that's why all of the inhabitants of the castle are female. The only man you can find in the area, other than Ethan and the omnipresent Duke, but we know from the castle guestbook he's a guest, are the corpses right outside of the castle, bodies that have had their blood drained from. The fact our lady and her daughters feed on the villagers' blood doesn't seem to change the opinion local farmers have on the family. Mother Miranda and their 4 little experiments are all treated as celestial beings by the villagers. We can in fact find Lady Dimitrescu portraits in the homes and churches across the town. Maybe the villagers just think a lot of people disappear in the woods for unrelated reasons. Her design was inspired by 3 key figures, and the most important is definitely Elizabeth Bathory, a 16th century Hungarian noblewoman accused of torturing and killing hundreds of women with a predilection for young virgins. Lady Dimitrescu's favorite wine is called Sanguis Virginis, which means maiden's blood. While Bathory's favorite victims were lower nobles' daughters, she was said to be very harsh and vindictive over her servants, just like our Alcina and her daughters. Folklore stories also labeled Bathory as a vampire, saying she would bathe in the blood of virgins to retain her beautiful and young appearance forever. A second inspiration is a Japanese urban legend called Hasshaku-sama, a creepypasta post on the anonymous Japanese board 2 channel. The villain of this story is a woman over 2 meters tall, wearing a white brim hat and a flowing white sundress, with a passion for terrorizing a village. She is said to target a young victim, following him, laughing and emitting strange sounds, until the victim dies a few days after. Finally, her third inspiration is Morticia Addams, as portrayed by Angelica Houston. Dimitrescu shares a lot of similarities to Morticia: extremely pale skin, long flowing dresses, and a strong will to protect her family. Lastly, both of them enjoy looking presentable, no matter the occasion. Surprisingly, the art director doesn't cite Dracula as an inspiration for Our Lady, despite the many obvious and some less obvious references. First, the story takes part in a remote village of Romania, which is where Dracula came from. Castle Dimitrescu is not very similar to the in-real-life Dracula's mansion, but it's surely inspired by Peleș Castle, a near-Renaissance castle near Sinaia, a city on the way to the vampire's land of Transylvania. And of course we know she is some kind of vampire. While her regenerative capabilities, eternal life and preserved physical appearance are all result of the Cadu infection, we know from Miranda's notes Alcina had a pre-existing blood disease that forces her to consume large quantities of human blood, which is basically vampirism. They just never use the word in the game. Another similarity with Dracula involves the 3 daughters, Daniela, Bella and Cassandra. In Bram Stoker's novel, 3 women live in Dracula's castle. They are described as weird sisters, and it's somewhat implied they probably weren't sisters in a biological way. Same can be said for our 3 ladies, since we know they got manufactured by Lady Dimitrescu and Mother Miranda. They were also bloodthirsty and highly sexual, and we know very well our 3 sisters chase Ethan, demanding his blood and telling him how much they love him at the same time.
Don't you love me?
There seems to be even a physical reference, since Dracula's sisters are described as young, beautiful, 2 of them with darker hair and 1 blonde. Adding more pieces to the puzzle, we know that after Ethan stabs her with the poison-imbued dagger, she transforms in a dragon-like figure. Guess what's the meaning of the word Dracul in the old Romanian language? Yep, it's dragon. The meaning is not less scary in modern Romanian, since it now means the devil. Pretty fitting for a mistress of an evil blood cult who can transform in a dragon, isn't it? The surname Dimitrescu itself is another huge reference to Dracula, since it derives from Demeter. In Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula travels to England on a ship called the Demeter. But there's more. Demeter is the Greek goddess of harvest, which makes very ironic the fact Our Lady harvests the blood of the village's farmers. Demeter also presides over the cycle of life and death, which is again very ironic, considering Alcina stopped aging. Oh, and goddess Demeter was also addressed as the mistress of the house. Less spooky fact, but Dimitrescu is actually a real Romanian surname, and it's pronounced Dimitrescu, although both in the Japanese and the English version of the game it's pronounced with a French inflection. Since she is a noble woman who was most likely born in 1800s, this actually makes a lot of sense. French was in fact the language of choice of the European aristocracy and diplomacy in general, and it got replaced by English only after the Second World War. Or maybe we are overthinking it, and it's just one of the many times Japanese developers accidentally butcher the pronunciation of a foreign word.
All your base are belong to us. You are on the way to destruction.
What you say?
Her first name, Alcina, is also not just a random European-sounding name. In Ludovico Ariosto's Italian epic poem Orlando Furioso, Alcina is an ugly and decrepit woman who appears young and beautiful thanks to her magic powers. In archaic Italian, the adjective alcinesco, which basically means Alcina-like, is used to describe something as deceptively seductive and fascinating. Back on the topic of her monster transformation, it seems that not only she knew about her power, but it's not even the first time she did it. While the poor Ethan tries to take her down, she says, "You are a lucky man, Ethan. Besides Miranda, you are the only one to ever see me in this form." We don't know if she has full control over it, and Miranda's note makes us think she probably doesn't, but we can understand she clearly knew she could become a giant flower dragon. We are lucky enough to have a lot of information about the technical aspects of Lady Dimitrescu's creation as well. The voiceover and performance capture artist Maggie Robertson shared a lot of behind-the-scenes pics on her Twitter account, showing us how do you bring to life a video game character. To give all the actors a clear idea of how big Lady Dimitrescu is, they use a giant pole with a soft head marked with a grumpy face. Another actress gave Lady Dimitrescu her likeness, Helena Mankowska. A little curiosity, she was Milla Jovovich's stunt double in the movie Paradise Hills, and Milla is Alice in the Resident Evil movies. And one more little curiosity for anime fans. Lady Dimitrescu's ability to pull out her clothes from her fingertips resembled that of Lust from Fullmetal Alchemist. Lust also cannot age past her prime and has insane regeneration abilities that make her very hard to get killed. Oddly enough, they both share the same Japanese voice actress as well. So, do you feel like you got to know Lady Dimitrescu a little bit more? Please let me know if there is some more curiosity that I might have missed, and thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave me a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and see you next time.